Hey there, folks. Welcome back to the Overflow. I'm Grumpy.
I guess that makes me sleepy.
Yeah.
I sure as hell don't want to be dopey.
Yeah. So, admittedly, for those of you who have been watching my videos, you probably already know I'm not in the best of moods lately. I'm going insane, it seems, with worry and all this other shit. So, thankfully, we can do something normal, but if I am angrier than usual in some of my responses, or shorter, or something like that, or I don't come across like I'm in it, it's not you, it's me. I am just, my brain is full of fuck right now, and it's just not a good place to be at. So, yeah, it's been a hard week, and as we're recording this, it's only Tuesday.
Yep.
All right. So for those who don't know, the Overflow is where we get the chance to answer the questions that we did not get the chance to go over during the podcast. These come from Twitter, emails, and of course the stuff we missed during the show as well. So let's go ahead and get into it. Hatman, as always, I will let you choose which one we're starting. Starting with politics or entertainment.
Let's start with politics.
Okay. I read these earlier. Some of these will be pretty quick. Okay. In your Duke of Tumwater asks, in our opinion, what's the main cause of unpopular policies, i.e., prohibition in the 20s and the 30s, the Hart-Celler Immigration Act being enacted into law? You know, funny thing about it, there is a microcosm of this that is present in our society that you can observe. And I actually observed today in my own frickin' Discord server that I'm actually considering shutting down because I simply cannot have a positive influence on people, it seems. But where I see people who want to ban homosexuality in the West because of the bad shit that happens in the extreme wing of the LGBT lobby.
Jesus.
We were I was ranting like I usually do when we're talking business before we start this about the fact that it for me it seems like I can't fit in anywhere. I can't fit in with Christians because it seems like half the Christians want theocracy, which doesn't work. And I can't fit in with conservatives these days who are my age because for some reason they want government involvement in everything, which is what Obama wanted. And I'm losing it. And the reason that this happens is because people read the news or they see things like this and they say, I can't control it. I need somebody to control it for me. Then they pull the big there is apparently in their minds this case on the fucking wall that says, in case of I can't control shit, break glass. And behind it is the Big Brother button.
Yeah, the answer is not authoritarianism. Never. Never, ever, ever.
It always creates a backlash. There are protests going on in Hong Kong right now. There are protests in Iran. Authoritarian governments that are all over the place. A big deal gets made about Antifa because they are violent.
Mm-hmm.
But they can't rub two fucking sticks together. They do not represent the majority, and they know it. What it is it is an inward feeling that people try to push outward onto society to try to control it.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot control people. People do not want to be controlled. People want to choose.
Yep. The thing about freedom is, people like it. People like being able to have individual liberties. They don't like being restricted. I mean, I'm sure you guys don't like being handcuffed or having limited mobility. It's natural. People like to be free. People like to do what they want to do, what they believe is right. And as long as it doesn't cause any harm to anybody, what the fuck is the problem?
And when it does cause harm to people, it's not like we don't have laws already in place to punish those who do it.
Exactly.
To use my Discord server as an example, there was an article that came out about some people who are gay, who are infected with the HIV virus, donating blood. They should be in jail for that. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. For public endangerment.
Mm-hmm. And in most states, that is illegal.
Yes.
California, notably, is not one of them.
Yeah. And that's the problem. And people will pay for that. At some point, California will change. It has changed before. It has not been a blue state that long. It used to be red for a long time. Hollywood was the blue area. But it was red for a long, long time. Then, oddly enough, they would not check illegal immigration. It was one of Reagan's biggest mistakes. And it turned blue.
Reagan's home state.
Yep. Well, no, Illinois is his home state.
Well, it's political home state.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's where he was governor.
Yeah.
So, but it is always people who want to control because they don't feel in control of their own lives. So they feel the need to control everything around them. The control freak is what that is.
Mm-hmm.
And do I think the people who want things like this are control freaks? Yes. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I don't have that in case of whatever break open for Big Brother's help in my brain. It's not there. Because I don't want anybody to tell me what to do. I want to choose.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had some people say, well, you're a Christian. Yes, I chose to be a Christian.
I mean, that's a major part of the gospel is free will. Man is given the ability to choose.
Or even go back to Joshua. Choose now whom you will serve.
Mm-hmm.
And starting to... And people will fucking lie about it, too. To try to portray like things that aren't a small amount of people as a large amount of people. There are not millions of gay people who have HIV that are donating blood. There are not.
No.
There are not millions of transgender people at all in the United States.
No.
There are not millions of couples who are trying to force transgenderism on their children.
No.
But they get press, and then people read the press, and they are under the impression that the sky is falling.
Yeah. It's the same thing like we've talked about with black people being shot by cops or mass shootings in general. Just because it gets a lot of repetition on the news doesn't mean that it's a widespread fucking epidemic.
It seems like nobody's ever seen the story of Chicken Little. Or heard that story. Or The Boy Who Cried Wolf. Because that's what this is. It is law created in fear of the proverbial wolf. There's maybe a wolf out there. You convinced yourself there's a pack out there, and you take all these measures that you don't need to take that screw up other people's lives. Sometimes the wolf is at your door. Sometimes it's a beagle that just took a dump on your porch instead. We are not at war.
No.
But that is to answer Tumwater's question. That is what creates it. It is that part of the human psyche that fears the fact that they have no control over their situation, so they must control everything.
Mm-hmm. And they convince other people that control is good.
Yeah.
That more control somehow makes them more free. Because if it's just an unpopular policy, it's not going to be powerful at all. I
Yeah.
mean, you know, go back to that prohibition thing. They did have to convince people that alcohol was the cause of so many social ills. I mean, people realized over time that actually that's kind of bullshit.
And it
That's
made things
how it
worse.
is. Yeah, I mean, that's how society changes. You know, unpopular policies now were probably popular policies back in the day.
Yeah, and there's only like one of two things that you do when you do that. You create a black market, or you create a backlash. I have said this over. We both have said this over and over and over again. The reason that the LGBT lobby is so extreme is because of theocratic Christians pushing back against people that they had no business criticizing because they could not see the plank in their own eye. Why do you think people loved it? What was the name of Tammy Faye Baker's husband? Like that preacher. And why do you think people love it when a preacher falls? It's because oftentimes the ones that do are the most censorious scumbags that you will ever find. And I hate to say this. There are points in my life where I kind of sympathize with the idea behind the French Revolution of strangle the last king with the entrails of the last priest. Oh, and one thing, just for everybody out there. Trying to say theocracy hasn't been done right yet or monarchy hasn't been done right yet is the right-wing version of saying that socialism hasn't been done yet.
Yeah.
Cut the shit.
No. I'll say this. Don't criticize the fucking Middle Eastern nations because Islam rules over there, and then say, oh, we need a theocracy over here, or we need a monarchy over here. It's the same thing, just a different fucking religion. Fuck that.
Yeah.
No.
Historically speaking, it was never different when it was Christianity.
No.
Never.
No. Mm-mm. Holy Roman Empire, go look it up. I know we like to say Deus Vult and shit like that. We like to reference that sort of thing, but those were not the best times.
No.
Of government. You know, governing people. No, absolutely not.
All right, let's move on.
Yeah.
John Doe says, I know you're not an Aussie, but we've got a left-winger calling out the feminists and SJWs. Many in the Labour Party are calling for him to be gone. Well, of course they are. That's the narrative. That's what they want, is they don't want anybody who dissents. Now this is something where we can talk about where there is a clear majority here that needs to be fought against. Is that there is a swath of the left, and this is worldwide, that they are of one thought, and they have bought into the social justice narrative. And they cannot stand when other people do not agree with them. And they want them to be destroyed.
Yeah. You are not allowed to disagree.
Yeah.
If you disagree, it is because there's a problem with you. Either you are a horrible bigot, or you have internalized bigotry, or there is just something wrong with you. You are not allowed to disagree with them. It is immoral for you to disagree with them.
Yeah. And this is the sad thing about the whole Carlos Maza situation, is that his idea of how to treat conservatives is the mainline left-wing idea on how to treat conservatives. You know, we actually saw it recently. The Quartering did a video about Jim Sterling supporting Carlos Maza behind the scenes, and why he didn't speak out against CNET going after video game YouTubers.
Yeah, he was mentioned in that CNET article, wasn't he?
Yep.
Huh.
Jim Sterling is not
fucking
a
sword.
Jim Sterling's not an original thinker. He's a party member.
Mm-hmm. Join the party. That's one way you won't get sent to the gulag. Well, maybe.
Maybe. You'll just get executed in Red Square.
Well, better than 20 years in Siberia.
I guess.
Death is a preferable alternative to communism.
Yes. Yes, it is. Hatman doesn't even like Fallout, but he likes Liberty Prime, apparently.
Goddamn straight.
Alright. Physics Hypernova wants to know thoughts on the recent 30th anniversary of the Tiananmen Square massacre in China. Simply, I pray for the day that China's free.
I want to know what happened to Tank Man. I want to know what happened to that guy. He's probably dead, but I still want to know what happened to him.
Oh, he was probably killed.
Almost certainly. Speaking of China.
Yes, thoughts on the protests in Hong Kong. I think Britain giving it back to China was a mistake regardless of lefty outrage. Yeah.
Well, they kind of had to. They had, like, what, a 99-year ownership of it, and it was like a contract that was expiring.
Yeah.
What was that, 97, I think? But, no, the protests now are very interesting because apparently people are seeing this proposed law for what it really is. Basically, China being able to take control of Hong Kong. And for those who don't know, Hong Kong is more or less able to operate on its own. It has its own currency, its own governmental structure, but it's still considered a part of China, which is kind of odd. It's like if Puerto Rico had its own individual government. That's the equivalent. You know, they're not beholden to what the fuck we do, but they're still ours. It's a weird sort of situation, and I think the protesters are in the right with this one. I think China, I don't trust China, of course, and I think they are going to try and exert their influence over Hong Kong. I mean, Hong Kong is one of the world cities, so
yeah,
why the fuck not? Fucking China.
Yeah.
Again, death. Preferable alternative to communism.
Yes, very much so. Matchstick wants to know, why should J. Jonah Jameson be a take no shit conservative be press secretary? Because J. Jonah Jameson chewing out Jim Acosta would be legendary.
I want to see J. Jonah Jameson talk about what resources the president is putting into finding Spider-Man.
We're going to secure the border, and then we're going to find that no-good Spider-Man and make him pay. He did something. I'll find it.
I'll make him infamous.
Oh, goodness. The fact that What's-His-Face has said he wants to come back and play Jonah again is so cool.
Oh, yeah, J.K. Simmons.
Yeah.
I don't see anyone else but him.
Yeah, I going back, I have watched, oddly enough, recently, the old Spider-Man movies. And the first one, in my opinion, has aged the best, oddly enough, of the three. The second one, The third one, ugh. But,
really, I think Spider-Man 2 has aged the best out of all of them. The first one is just kind of jarring compared to, like, what we know superhero movies now to be. But it's still, like, if you are a big fan of the Spider-Man comics, you're going to appreciate it that much more because it is schlocky, like classic Spider-Man.
It depends on the run you're thinking of. You gotta think of, with me, I came up with the David Michelini Spider-Man. Like, my favorite runs are David Michelini and J. Michael Straczynski, and those are arguably the darkest of the two, of all runs.
I'm thinking of, like, original Stan Lee runs of Spider-Man.
Right, yeah, if you're looking for that sort of Silver Age hoke, you're probably going to like Spider-Man 2 more than the first one. The first one's a little bit more grounded. And Tobey Maguire being like kind of an emotional wreck makes sense in that film. And kind of not knowing what to do next. So that worked, but I really think that as time went on, it's weird because you look at the cast of those films and the casting was so good. He is the weakest actor. So,
Yeah.
well, no. Hold on. Hold that thought. He is the weakest actor in the first two movies. He is certainly not the weakest actor in the third. Because Topher Grace is trash.
The thing is that I really like Toby's interpretation of Peter Parker, though. Like, he really was, the sort of soft-spoken social outcast that Peter Parker was really supposed to be way back in the day. Now he's sort of a cool guy in a way, but
He's more enthusiastic.
well, he's
now
more sure
than
of
he used
himself.
to be. Yeah.
He has a lot more confidence. I would attribute a lot of that to his relationship with Mary Jane, but at the same time, though, like he was basically the comic reader of the era.
Yeah. But we need to get back to the question. But yeah,
We've gone from politics.
We certainly have no argument against the idea of J. Jonah Jameson being alive and being real and being the press secretary.
Yes,
we are all for it.
Make it so. Make it so.
All right. Incel Mafioso asks, thoughts on the Tory UK party's leadership decision? Looks like Boris Johnson will win. We called it.
Yeah, we called it.
It's a good choice.
I think he's pretty all right. I want to see Brexit, goddammit.
Well, he also has very good relations with America as well. He likes us quite a bit. And he had very good relations with Nikki Haley during their time at the UN together. On top of that, he's a deal or no deal guy when it comes to Brexit.
Right.
And he needs to be. So. Okay. A ton of entertainment questions. So we got a long one. A lot of how would you write questions that I get these days. My comic's not even out yet. Okay. Serena asks. Her question is, how would you approach telling a sociological story? So here's what she says. I want to tell a story about a group of magical girls tasked with killing gods from different cultures. Commentary on society has lost its Christian values, now sees humanity as pillars of virtue rather than God, under the belief that humanity, thinking about making each of the characters into non-human supernatural species like demons, vampires, and the like, is being oppressed by these corrupt gods. These girls come from a society that relies only on logic and science, and the people who run this society think that the world's time is better spent improving technology, scientific advancement, than believing in nonsensical things like flawed gods, telling people how to run their lives. Although there is magic and fantasy elements in this world, it is slowly on the decline due to unknown events. There was once a time where magic and technology coexisted together. These girls do not realize that they're only making society worse by doing this. Without religious values to give people moral structure, they risk becoming apathetic, narcissistic, and less concerned for how their actions would affect the next generation. Thinking about making the generational story like JoJo. Sorry for the long email. Just wanted to know how to better approach this idea. Okay, so it actually sounds interesting.
It sounds very similar to His Dark Materials.
Kind of does, but I think it's an interesting idea. I think that oftentimes the best ways to tackle something like this are in a fantasy story. The big thing is you don't want to make it too heavy-handed. Yeah, you have your premise. You have your inspiration for your premise. Now it just needs to be fun.
Mm-hmm. Don't make it so ridiculously straightforward. Like, make sure that if you're trying to give sort of like what's the word I'm looking for? I guess a moral take, or like a clear take on, what you believe this is supposed to be. Make sure like you address any sort of potential criticisms within the story itself, like any sort of adversaries to whatever point you're trying to make. Beat them, but beat them with the logic behind your reasoning, because otherwise you're literally just going to be building straw men and knocking them over. Don't be like modern day Marvel comics. For God's sake, don't.
Yeah, subtext is your best friend.
Yes, there we. That's the word I'm looking for. Subtext.
Because like with Inglewood, June 28th, with Inglewood coming out, like a big like I was inspired by real world events to write that story, but it was, corruption and gangs and things like that. Like that's part of it. But I didn't like. It's not an anti-gang PSA though. Not really. I mean, it's not an anti-government PSA. Definitely not. There exist elements within the story that have that bleed my values into them. I wrote a whole article on Bleeding Fool about it, about whether or not you can really keep your values out of entertainment and keep them from being political. And I just called it the bleeding. The fact that whenever you write something, what you're passionate about will pour into it naturally. And some people just entertain, like that's all they think about. With me, that's not really it. I can never just be that. I could never just be an entertainer. It could be my primary focus, but there's always going to be little things that I'm going to want to do. And because I have the educational background that I do, I at least can speak on them without looking like a complete and total goofball. Only sort of a goofball. So, yeah, just subtext is going to be your best friend. You've got the premise. You have an inspiration for that premise. When just tell the story. Don't think about how can I inject this or that. Just tell what's on your heart, and then let that kind of like I know it's so fucking hokey to say let your heart guide you, but let your heart guide you, and you will get the story that you want to tell. Just don't never allow it to be written by committee, ever. All right. Let's continue. I'm Your Pepper wants to know, who's the better voice for Wolverine? Cal Dodd, Scott McNeil, or Stephen Bloom? Cal Dodd.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to argue. Steve Bloom, God bless him, he sounds the same in everything.
Mm-hmm.
You can never unhear Spike Spiegel.
Actually, I think that of a lot of the roles that he has done, his Spike Spiegel sounds less like any of the other ones. It's everything he does outside of Spike and Great Teacher Onizuka sounds like Wolverine.
There's I always hear that distinct timbre.
Well, that's because you know who he is.
Well, not even that. Like I can pick that out of a crowd. Like Mark Hamill, some of the stuff that he does is, really, really hard to discern. Tara Strong, same way. But like Steve Bloom and who is the other one? God damn it!
Nolan North.
Not Jim Cummings. There you go, Nolan North. You can always tell it's them.
Did you know it was him in Arkham City?
Yes.
The Penguin.
Yes.
I don't believe you. Because nobody knew that was him.
There's certain distinctions that you can pick up. Maybe I've just got an ear for VAs. I don't know, but yeah.
But
Bloom is really, really easy to figure out.
Yeah.
But no,
Bloom is a good Wolverine. Don't get us wrong.
Oh yeah, no, not saying that at all. It's just he's not the best.
Yeah, Cal Dodd's, his just is like... Whenever I read a Wolverine comic, that's the voice I'm hearing. Alright, Red Dragon wants to know, when writing or drawing a sexy female character, should you explain why she's dressed the way she is, or just say because I like it? Yes.
Is it relevant to the plot?
plot, he says.
I'm serious. If it's not relevant at all to the plot, then there is no reason to explain it. You don't have to find a way to say the curtains were blue because they represented some what the fuck. No. Sometimes the curtains are blue because they tie the room together really well. Sometimes the woman in the red dress is hot as fuck because that's just who she is. A woman in a red dress that is hot as shit. There doesn't need to be a reason for it other than that is who she is, that is what she's wearing.
And sometimes explanations can just be super simple. Like Hatman said, woman in a red dress. Well, why is she dressed like that? Because she put on a red dress and she said, I look really good in this. So she wore it.
Yeah. Because that's what she had in her closet and that's what she decided to wear.
Yeah. Say with because sometimes it has a purpose. Sometimes there's a way to tell story through outfit, and that's why part of the reason like I've defended Mortal Kombat 11 as much as I have, because I think that some of the outfits they have in that game really do that very well.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time,
example of Quiet from MGS5.
Yeah. You know, it's like at a point, it's like this is why she is the way she is. My whole thing is that if people don't accept your reason for doing it the way you do it, tell them to fuck off.
Yeah.
It's like Yoko Taro, who has done the Nier games, Drakengard. You know, when it came to 2B's design, you know, he just said, "I just like beautiful women. I like it. Just he's like, I am a man. I am a straight man. I like looking at beautiful women." He's a hips and ass guy. So am I. You know, it just like I don't have to justify that to you.
Nope,
so,
ain't nothing wrong with it. Don't like it, fuck off.
All right. Hatman, are you ready for the chance to rant about fandom?
Oh God, again?
Again. Duke of Tumwater asks, what are some legitimately shitty fan bases in your opinion?
Alright, let me think of some that are different, because how many times have I fucking talked about how, like, the Steven Universe fan base is fucking terrible?
Yeah, like, let's get that out of the way. Steven Universe's fan base is a bunch of fucking psychopaths. Rick and Morty.
Yeah.
That's another duh.
Twilight circa 2008 and 9.
Yes, that's another good one.
Horrible.
Captain Marvel stans.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Are legitimately awful people.
For that matter, I would put about half of the fan base for Kamala Khan and Miles Morales too.
Yeah, we'll throw that under a blanket of SJW Marvel.
Yeah, let's do that. Milkshake Marvel.
Yeah.
Here's one. The Undertale fandom.
Oh God.
The game itself is really not awful from what I've played of it, but holy shit, the fan base is fucking insane. Absolutely fucking rabid and insane. And again, like I've always said, shipping is cancer. Why the fuck are you shipping skeletons and shit?
Because some people are literal cancer.
The best thing about skeletons, well, actually, no, never mind, because bone cancer is a fucking thing.
Yep.
Christ. There's one more.
I think it's called, like, what, osteolymphoma?
I think so. That sounds about right. That ticks off the prefixes.
Not lymphoma, then. No, that's not, because that would be osteolymph nodes, something, or bone lymph.
Okay,
I'm going to look up the term. There isn't one, oddly enough. It's just called bone cancer.
Somebody who knows Latin, figure that shit out.
Is it osteosarcoma? That doesn't sound right.
I
Yeah, it is. It's osteosarcoma.
Okay, well, there you go. All right. Never mind, Latin speakers or Latin understanders.
And or both.
God damn it. There's one more.
I want to say a couple of YouTube fandoms that are trash.
Oh boy.
Destiny and Jim Sterling are the fucking worst.
Yeah, they're fucking awful. Yeah. And then here's one recently. The Anita Sarkeesian Defenders.
Oh, God.
Jesus Christ. She's a fucking con artist.
I would say that's like half the fucking game journalist industry.
Yeah. She's a fucking con artist. All of y'all know it. You just don't want to say anything about it because she just happens to be on your side politically.
The fact she just threatened the developers of Cyberpunk should speak volumes.
That's basically extortion. I meant it when I said she is the Al Sharpton of video games. And then getting fucking pissy at EA because they donated money to actual fucking charities instead of her fucking racket. Fuck you, Anita.
Any others?
Yeah, I'll toss in this one. Speaking from experience, Apple fanboys are cancerous as hell. Like, people that are diehard Apple can do absolutely no wrong. Holy fucking shit. Like, I get it. I sold my soul to Steve Jobs back when I was still a young kid. But my God, even I have some fucking sense. Ugh.
Trying to think of any others that I really hate. I'm really not sure. I can't think of any others.
Well,
actually, no. There's the younger part of the Mortal Kombat fan base is fucking terrible. Because you have longtime Mortal Kombat fans, and then you have the 12-year-olds. Now, you don't have to be 12 to be part of the 12-year-olds. But if you act 12, you are one of the 12-year-olds. Yeah. And they are infamous on Twitch for getting into Mortal Kombat streams and just shitting them up.
Fucking kids.
Yeah, they are. If a streamer that you like on Twitch is streaming Mortal Kombat and you're wondering why they're in sub mode, that's why. The 12-year-olds. They are cancer.
Fuck them kids.
Yeah. Okay. Sombra Fox wants to know, if you could briefly send a contemporary wrestler to ancient Rome or Greece, who would you send to where and when? Brock Lesnar. To any era. It would be amazing.
I would send Stone Cold.
No, he means like wrestler. Somebody who knows how to wrestle. Like Greco, freestyle.
Fuck that. Stone Cold to ancient Rome, so we have the possibility of actually getting Austin 3:16 canonized.
Oh, dear God. Anyway. Will End wants to know, apropos Square Enix's Avengers, how would you build the Marvel gaming universe? Well, I kind of feel like they're already doing that. Because we're getting this Avengers game. We had the Spider-Man game.
Yeah, I would make the Spider-Man game the cornerstone of it.
From what I'm hearing, the Avengers game actually played really well. But it has some frame rate issues that they have to even out.
Yeah.
Which that was like the most common thing I heard about games at E3 this year for people that played them.
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if they're being built for next gen hardware.
Wouldn't surprise me either. One thing that I will say with the Avengers game, they really need to work on some of the faces, especially Black Widow's. Black Widow's does not look good.
Yeah. Apparently, they're going to change some of them, but not all of them.
Yeah, that's what I heard too.
Yeah,
they took the feedback from E3 really seriously, from what I've been hearing.
Which is good. Yeah, it's good on them.
Yeah, but anyway, no, that's what I would do. Is like, don't sign off the Marvel brand to any one developer or publisher. Mm-hmm. Instead, sell off the license to something, but have part of the contract be that there's a coherent universe that's tied into. And then go from there. You know, sort of like what LucasArts used to do, is they would contract out for certain stories that were Star Wars canon at the time, but were not always going to be from the same publisher or what have you.
Right. At least do a Doctor Strange game. I want a fucking Doctor Strange game, goddammit.
That'd be a hard one to make, but that'd be interesting. I am just wondering if the Avengers game is successful, if it will split off into its own different like games and stuff. Like I would love to have an Iron Man game where
a proper Iron Man.
Yeah, a proper like actual good Iron Man game where like you have different suits you can switch into on the fly and stuff like that. Like that would be really cool. Mm-hmm. So, but no, that's what I do. I just contract it out to different development houses and have just like a general idea of what it's supposed to be about and to consider the other games that are being created, and that's it.
Yeah.
All right. Brian Gilmartin wants to know, is it just me or are nearly all anti-corporate narratives in fiction seem to be written from a left socialist perspective? Welcome to the arts.
Yeah. Yeah. You could make an argument that the film version, at least, of Ready Player One, comes from a more libertarian point of view, since the idea is that the evil corporation at the center of it all is more restricting individual liberties than anything else. But at the same time, in a sea of anti-capitalist criticism, that one immediately stands out in my mind.
Yeah.
It's being like the only example, and even then, like, that's just an argument you could make. You could just as easily say, yeah, it's actually a critique of capitalism, which
not all of those kinds of stories are critiques of capitalism. Yeah. Sometimes they're just critiques of corporatism.
Yeah, corporatism is not equivalent to capitalism, contrary to what the DSA would have you believe.
Yeah. Brian Gilmartin wants to know, is it just me... Oh, well, sorry. Never mind. Next question. Micah Clark wants to know, thoughts on the movies The Ten Commandments and Ben-Hur? They're classics.
Yeah. Watch them at Easter.
Exactly. Crystal Wing wants to know, for D&D, what's the best way for me to test the character's sanity in my Dead Space campaign Whispering Shadows? Also, what happened to Sour Hatman on D&D? He should play with Blarg. So,
I told the story.
When?
Back when we were answering questions about D&D, like from the start, I said I got really soured on it because of a bad campaign that I had to do. That was 4th edition.
Ugh.
The DM had a story that she had written for like months and did not want anyone deviating from it. So the party made it their exclusive mission to deviate from the story wherever possible, which made the DM very upset. And on top of that, one of the party members took it upon himself to sleep with every female character they ever came across. We would have to stop and wait for him to make a roll so he could fuck bitches. It got annoying very, very quickly.
There you go. So,
and we had a just sorry.
Go ahead.
We had a Blarg-like character too, named Carl, who was a dragonborn with obscene strength to the point where you basically had to make a dexterity roll anytime that he did like anything with his arms, and if you failed it, he would destroy something. Like opening a door. Roll dexterity. Okay. Fail the roll. Door is fucking ripped off its hinges. You know, shaking hands with somebody. Okay, well, he just fucking broke their arm. Or, in some cases, removed it completely. It got stupid. Yeah, joke character and all, but it was just... There were way too many stupid things that derailed way too much. And I'm okay with derailing some, but... Dear God. Dear God.
Anyway, what's the rest of the question? Best way to test the character's sanity in the campaign. Think of some really crazy shit. I'm not really like in like a really weird mood right now. I'm just angry. So like I have to be in like a weird dark place mentally to come up with like creepy shit. So, like, this is not the best. And oddly enough, you can't really ask me about that sort of thing. Because you ask me when I am in that kind of mood, I'm liable to rip your throat out. Like, I'm just not in a good place. So yeah, it's a,
enemy encounters that aren't actually enemy encounters because they're not really there. Make us whole.
And when all else fails, use mind flayers. Get all tentacly. Eclectic wants to know, have we read A Candle for Leibowitz? And if you so, do you think it's being a good movie for the modern day? I have not.
Never heard of it.
I've
never heard of it.
I don't know. Incel Mafioso wants to know, The Last Night, when is that game being released? I have my concerns they're still being undermined by political partisans. Oh, they are.
Yes, absolutely. Tim Sorrett is doing not well financially because of the meddling of a certain con artist. Con being the operative word there.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's not doing well with financials because of that, but apparently it's still on track at the very least. He's still working on it. It's probably going to take a while.
Yeah. Thoughts, Optus Whisper wants to know, thoughts on a Reset Era member threatening lawsuits over the Discord leaks.
Oh, Jesus fucking Christ. Lawsuit for what?
Yeah, so what the fuck are you going to sue him over? Telling the truth?
I mean...
Sir, this person said I was a pedophile, but it says here you're a pedophile. That's not the point!
It's like the fucking Sarah Butts argument. Yeah, I mean, I said I was a pedophile once, but I was just an edgy kid at the time. So it's not like it meant anything.
There's an Alex Cooper song that I'm thinking of called Go to Hell.
Go directly to hell. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. I know that has nothing to do with the song, but fuck it.
And final question, how would I write Nightcrawler? First off, as a Christian, that's something I would do. I wouldn't leave his fucking religion on the sidelines.
Who'd have thunk it?
Let's see here. What's really weird is like the X-Men animated series episode where you see him for the first time. You couldn't make that episode again today. You couldn't talk about God like that.
Yeah, you really couldn't.
People wonder why I say the 90s were a better time. They were a way better time than this. But, how would I write Kurt? Well, this is a really good question. So, the one thing about Kurt that has always been a constant with me is that he has always been an example of, in at least the way that Claremont wrote him, of how a Christian should act. Kurt loves everybody. Despite what their background is, despite whatever it is, he loves everyone, even the people who hate him. He believes that you should love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. And that is how I would write him. I would write him as somebody who is not a hateful person, who had the misfortune of being born a blue fuzzy elf, but knows that even despite his appearance, he is loved. Because in a way that is a message that transcends, any certain era. So that is how I would write the character. Aside from that, I think if there's any one miniseries I would like to write more than anything, it would be a Spider-Man Nightcrawler team-up book that's about like 4 to 6 issues long. I don't know how I would do it. That's the problem. But I always would want to see the playoff of those two. Because one thing people don't realize about Kurt is he is kind of a smart aleck. And he is kind of a jokester. He has a great sense of humor to him. But the downside of Kurt has always been that he's never been a great solo character. You kind of have to have him play off other people. Because you think of Kurt's greatest moments. What are they usually in? When he's with a team, with either the X-Men or Excalibur. You know? Can I rant again?
Go for it.
You know what's bullshit? And this is why Mark Guggenheim is fucking stupid, or part of the reason, is why the fuck, when they were doing the Kitty Pryde Colossus marriage ceremony, I think that they had just a straight priest, which doesn't make sense because Kitty's Jewish. And second, why wasn't it Kurt performing the ceremony?
I don't know. I have no fucking idea. I have no fucking idea.
Did you know they had Wolverine show up in that book?
No.
To stand on a fucking hillside because he hadn't revealed that he was still alive yet and say that he was proud of her. And then they have her walk away from the altar. All to promote Gambit and Rogue instead.
Dumb shit.
People get on Tom King for not jump-starting the Bruce and Selena marriage there. But the Kitty Pryde one was way worse.
It was at least the Bruce and Selena one made sense.
Yeah, they
Like
set it up.
It had an explanation in the same damn book. Like, come the fuck on. Colossus is not allowed to be happy.
Apparently not. But other than that, I'm trying to think. Kurt's one of those characters that I feel like if I did 4 issues with him, just 4, the 4th issue would have to be, I would have to set up to that issue very well. And the 4th issue would have to be 12 pages of straight up dialogue that is purely philosophical. And then the rest of the comic's a fight. I feel like that's what I would have to do. Or else it just wouldn't work. You know?
Well, it's your book.
Well, you're my editor. What do you think?
I think I don't know Kurt well enough, to be honest.
What do you think of my idea of that last book?
I would go for it, but again, I don't know him well enough. I would still have to read more Nightcrawler specific material in order to be able to give you a proper assessment.
Yeah, I think that he'd be a character up my alley.
Oh yeah, absolutely, especially with the philosophical and religious aspects of it.
Yeah, not to mention with the way I write fight scenes. So for those who don't know, I like to do what we call a 9-panel blow-by-blow fight. Meaning, because a lot of fights that you see in comic books, you will see these big splash pages of this big impact, which I do like those. But I don't like 4 panels, like bang, 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 that divide halfway through, and it's like quarter, 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 quarter. I don't like, and then it's like punch, 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 like trading punches. Fights aren't that quick. They're a little longer than that. So instead what I do 9 panels. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And on each panel is movement. And the reason I started doing this, I saw Tom King do it with Mr. Miracle. And I thought, that's brilliant. But he's not properly utilizing it because Tom King is a little bit more decompressed than I am. So the way I do the fight is I set it up, and then you get one of those pages where it is a strike-by-strike breakdown of the fight. And in the way you will read the panels, you will have a sense of flow to it. And that's not something that's easy to do. But I thought but because I am experienced in boxing and kickboxing, I don't know of a better guy to really write them than me. So
right to your strengths.
Oh, man. Blood pressure is bullshit.
Grapefruits are bullshit.
What?
You heard me. Grapefruits are bullshit.
What does that have to do with anything?
Maybe like 2 people are going to understand that reference. Maybe like 2 people. I hope they're out there.
Everyone shame to Hatman!
Shame! 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 Shame!
I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm kind of retarded.
Anyway, we are out of questions. So, I am going to go do something with like the last couple hours of my night.
And I am going to go place.
Yep. All right, so folks, when you do see this, of course, it will most likely be Thursday. Yeah. And, of course, we will be returning with the podcasts. And then afterwards, we will... we've got Inglewood coming to Indiegogo in 10 days from this recording. So it'll probably be 8 days. Good God. This is nerve-wracking. So, yeah, excitement abound, to say the least. And, other than that, is there anything I'm forgetting? Oh, wait. Somebody asked how they can support this comic, but not on Indiegogo. So, there isn't a way. Not really. This is kind of the way we're going about getting this funded.
Yeah.
If you want to buy a copy of the book, this is the best way to do it, because it is going to either be sent to you digitally or it is going to be a physical copy, depending on, where you live and if you're willing to pay the shipping. Which we are going to find ways to keep shipping costs down. We have plenty of friends to guide us through that. Yeah. We can send a lot through media mail because there's not going to be any advertisements in the book. So, yeah. That's going to be the way we do it. Now, if for some reason, whenever the book gets funded, if for some reason it does not get picked up by a publisher, which is admittedly one of the goals, is to give it to a publisher and hopefully get picked up by, one of the ones in the indie scene that, don't hate us. Alterna would be a good option. Antarctic Press, Cautionary, something like that. If none of them do that and the team wants to continue with me, I am just going to say we self-publish on Amazon. Once the book is released. Because at some point, because I want people to be able to buy it on demand. So having it on Amazon means you could get it through Comixology, meaning that, we can also send codes out to people who are backers when it comes out, so on and so forth. So
we'll make it work.
Yeah, we'll make it work. But out of the gate, if you want to help the comic reach its goal, Indiegogo is going to be your only option.
Mm-hmm.
So other stuff will come later. All right. It is time for us to take off. Hatman, any final words?
The only final words that I have are, I was watching an owl sitting in a tree above me for a while, and he just flew away. That owl, I'm very certain, went off to deliver some news about Inglewood.
Well, good. Because owls are awesome, and if they want to get in on it, I'm perfectly fine with it.
Owls are a good omen.
Yes.
If you believe in that sort of thing.
I just believe owls are awesome. That's all I really need. I love owls.
Are metal as fuck.
All right, folks, we are going to go ahead and take off. My name is Micah Curtis, your favorite vanilla gorilla.
And I'm Alex Baldwin, also known as the Hatman.
We'll see you guys next week. Dave Svold.
Dave Svold.